Hey, this is ThinkerThunker. Earlier this week, I had a Zoom call with the legendary Bigfoot researcher, Ron Morehead.
I are just fine, ThinkerThunker. Thank you very much for having me on. It's an honor.
I had found proof that some of the vocalizations on his Sierra Sounds Bigfoot recordings couldn't have possibly been made by any human. And no, it wasn't this. Scott Nelson, a military-trained linguistics expert, declared that to be a verifiable unknown language, which is pretty cool, but to the skeptical masses, an expert's opinion is still just an opinion and not proof. I had found verifiable proof. So I presented Mr. Morehead with my evidence in person on a recorded Zoom call. I thought people would be interested in seeing that. But as nice and polite and gracious as Mr. Morehead was,
very, very enlightening. And I appreciate you doing this because it opens up a whole nother part of the veil that we're seeing through.
I suspect I didn't convince him of anything. I was a little nervous. So I doubled down. I kept searching and working on it. And literally the very next day, I found the smoking gun evidence that for the first time ever links his Sierra recordings from 50 years back to a more recent recording made all the way across the country in Kentucky, where we literally hear what has to be the exact same species, making the exact same vocalizations. So now I'm going to share with you the presentation I wished I had made to Mr. Morehead. Let's check it out. Okay, so first things first, this is what sound looks like. This is a spectral analysis view of one of the whooping calls or whooping vocalizations that Mr. Morehead recorded. Have a listen. Now, the part we care about here is the white and yellow part. That is the vocalization itself. And I consider this to be like a sonic fingerprint. And I could take the print down in pitch. I could take it back up. And you can see that the sonic fingerprint remains the same. So this is proof, every bit as much as your fingerprint is proof. All right, now I've added a second whoop call over here on the right. Have a listen. That was Mr. Morehead himself. He said he believed that the forest giants that were about 65 yards out in different directions were using these whooping calls to communicate with each other. So he was mimicking them, trying to get some communication going. Okay, so now have a listen to both vocalizations. So they're both whooping calls of sorts. Both were recorded seconds apart at the exact same location by the same tape recorder. So common sense would tell us that the appearance, the sonic fingerprints of these two calls should at least look similar. But look at them. They don't at all. They are radically different in appearance. Now, we see over here on the right that Mr. Morehead's call is just this one continuous flow of sound that kind of meanders up and down in pitch. But over on the left, we see something entirely different. It appears to be two clusters of sounds that are stacked on top of each other and don't vary in pitch at all. And so then I thought, okay, I'll do a little test. I'll do my own hoop vocalization and see if it looks like one of these two or looks entirely different. So place your bets. There we go. That's mine on the far right. Have a listen. Ooh, just your garden variety, no frills hoop. And so a child could look at these three and tell you that mine and Mr. Morehead's hoop are very similar, and that, again, they're both just these tubes of sound that vary up and down in pitch. And so even though our two vocalizations were recorded 50 years apart on entirely different equipment, his was outside, mine was in my studio, and yet they look the same. And there's a reason for that. It's because we are the same species. And that is why our sonic fingerprints match. Now have a look at this. This video is called Amazing Bigfoot Whoops from Kentucky, posted 6 years back by Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization. Come give them a subscribe and a like. Have a listen. Now, over here on the far right, we have the Kentucky hoop. So now, using your own eyes, your common sense, whose hoop do you think the Kentucky hoop most closely resembles? Does it look like my hoop? Does it look like a Ron's? Or does it look like the Sierra hoop? And again, I think any child could say the Kentucky hoop looks practically exactly like the Sierra hoop, only it's a little higher in pitch. But I can fix that. So now we've united these two whooping vocalizations that were separated by 40 plus years and over 2,300 miles. Have a listen. They look and sound all but identical. Now, let me refresh your memory. Mine and Ron's hoops are your basic, bare bones, no frills starter hoops that are both just one continuous flow of sound. That's it. Whereas the Sierra and Kentucky hoops over here, these things are altogether different. They are incredibly complex. And we can use our own eyes here and see that there is two separate parts to these vocalizations. And we can literally hear the two separate parts. Have a listen to the low part of the Kentucky hoop. It's making that low droning sound. That's where it's just kind of winding up. And if I continue this, if I stretch the selection, we can hear almost like this kind of low droning underwater sound. And now if I select just the high pitch part of that, now listen as I extend the selection down so that you can literally hear the high and the low part happening at the same time. Here we go. And the Sierra call is the exact same way. Here's the low part. Here's the high. And now I'm going to select both. So for those of you keeping score, we've got one set of vocal cords for Ron and I, and we've got what at least appears to be two sets of functioning vocal cords for the Sierra and Kentucky hoopers. Now, for all you skeptics who try to say, yeah, I've got this uncle. He can make six sounds with this. No, he can't. Here, have a look at this. This is me trying my best throat singing. Here we go. So I'm going to take a copy of that because technically that is a human making more than one sound at once. So I'll take a copy. I'll bring that over here and we will do a sonic fingerprint test. I will drop that in. So use your own eyes. Does my throat singing look anything like the two sonic fingerprints on the left? No, it doesn't. So anything you think or anyone that you think can make hoops like this, they can't, but I would be willing to, you go ahead and record them, get them to me. We will do a sonic fingerprint test and they will fail. And that is proof that we have recordings from all over North America of a species that is 100% non-human, or at least can do something that no human on the planet can do. That is definitive proof. So that's it. That is the smoking gun evidence. A species that can literally sing a duet with itself. It can sing the low part and the high part at the same time as if it had two vocal cords. That is impossible for humans. So this is my challenge to the world. This is my challenge to all of science, to every skeptic in the world. Send this video, share it with all the skeptical people in your family, your work, wherever. They will not be able to prove this wrong. They will not be able to do a vocalization that passes the sonic fingerprint test. All right, that's all I've got for now. Special thanks, as always, to my patrons and YouTube members. Their monthly support makes all the videos that I make and all the research that I do possible. And special thanks to Mr. Ron Morehead. Come to his website, ronmorehead.com. Check out his shop. Here are the Sierra recordings. They are incredible. Just listen to them. Check out his books. He's got some amazing stuff, amazing work here. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.